So hi guys, and welcome to this update session on the Creative Cloud and design tools. Welcome to those of you who are joining for the first time, thank you. And welcome back to many of you as well. It's good to see you again. So I've got a session later on in the week as well, so do look out for that. That's going to be covering the Edge tools and services. But right now we've got some really great workflow solutions coming your way via the cloud. So we're going to jump straight into that, and I'm going to take a little walk through those. So I've got open here on my desktop, I've got my browser open with my Creative Cloud folders in place here. So this is the interface that you're probably familiar with, a lot of you. I've got my websites that I've got published at the moment listed down here. I've got an update about some new sync features which we're going to talk about in a second. I've got my files area here. I've got a collaboration folder set up. That's something that's coming in future releases of the Creative Cloud, where you'll be able to share folders and collaborate and use this as a really good workflow sign-off solution. I've also got my download center, and this is where I get hold of all of my applications, all of my services, from the Creative Suite products that we have known and loved for a long time, to lots of new features and products in there as well, for example, Adobe Muse and the Edge tools and services. I've also got my learning environment, where there's going to be a load of tutorials on different techniques, creative fields, the products themselves, and lots of workflow solutions as well. So for example, how to publish an application to a mobile device. So the other thing that I've got now with the cloud, and I'm just going to minimize this, is this great new desktop tool. So within here you can see now I've got a whole load of different feeds coming in. I've got my home screen, which really gives me all of the latest information about what I've been doing, my activities, etc. You can see up on the top here I've got a little prompt as well, which is telling me that I've got some updates to consider accepting, and also that somebody, my colleague here, Richard, has shared a folder with me so that we can collaborate. Again, from here I can access all of my applications, do all of the updates that I need to do. And of course I can, from this Files tab, I can choose to open my folder which I've got synced locally on my desktop, or I can go straight to the creativecloud.com and view the folder structure and files online in that space. But the other great thing that you can now do as part of the cloud is to access, browse and synchronize your fonts, some of your fonts from the Typekit server to the desktop. If I just launch the fonts browser now, this is taking me straight to Typekit. And you can see now I've got all of these fonts that I could browse previously for my web applications, but now I've also got the ability to browse the desktop syncable fonts as well. So this means that any of these fonts that appear once this is selected are able to be synchronized with my desktop, and therefore available in any of my creative products to work with, for example, InDesign or Illustrator or Photoshop. So I can really make sure I'm keeping that brand consistency across all of my different outputs, all of my different publications, etc. So that's Typekit, that's really great. You can create your web typekits as well as usual within there. If I just jump back into my Creative Cloud desktop area, you can see that these are the fonts that I've already synced. I've tried to sync a couple twice, which is why it's given me this little warning message, or just a little notice message in there. So I've got this one, Tecton Pro, which I'm going to be using a little bit later. I can also manage my fonts from this area as well. Over here I've got my Behance tab, which gives an activity stream of all the people that I'm watching, all of the work that I'm appreciating, etc. From the wider design community. I can also take a look at any work that I've uploaded to get feedback on, etc. And I can browse new work from within here as well. I can view my profile and I can upload projects, etc. and see work in progress. So it's really great new features. I've got the ability within here as well to manage my fonts, but also to turn the file and sync off as well, the file and font sync off, if I don't want it happening all the time. Okay, so let's jump now into Adobe Illustrator, and I'm also going to launch up cooler.com. Okay, So as I mentioned, not only are you able to synchronize your fonts, synchronize your files, collaborate via the cloud, you've now got a really fantastic new feature to help you manage your color profiles and make sure that you can access those wherever you are on whichever device it is that you may be working with. So I'm just going to now jump into this Cooler app for the iPhone. I don't know if you can, hopefully you can see that nice and clearly on there. I've actually got the camera function working on there. So what it's doing is the camera on the phone is taking a look at all of the colours in the background, which is very colourful since the Creative Cloud background is right there, so that's great. And what I can do then is if I'm out and about on the move and I see some colours, for example, in some flowers or in a sunset or, you know, something out in the street that I want to capture, I can easily do that. I just click on this little accept button here. So let's accept that. This is called theme number 11 at the moment. But the great thing about this is then I can go into edit it and I can change all of the different colours within that on my phone itself. And I can accept that and I can save those changes. But the other thing is what I can do now is if we jump back over to cooler.com, and I'm just going to refresh this page here. You'll see that theme number 11 has now very handily jumped in for me. So I'm able to also work with it within this area. Now, in the old days, you would be able to download, which you can still do, a file exchange format, a color swatch format, so that you can then import this into your design applications, for example, Photoshop and Illustrator, and work with these colors, which of course is great. But no longer is that step needed, because if I jump over into Adobe Illustrator and take a look here, I've got my new Cooler panel, and this is fully integrated now with the cooler.com interface. So I've got all of my existing palettes up there. I'm just going to refresh this, and there we go. Theme 11 has jumped straight in here via the Creative Cloud, so it's syncing through my cloud workspace there. So all I had to do is make sure that I'm logged on, make sure that my phone is signed in as well to my adobe.com account, and this will all happen very seamlessly. It's brilliant. So of course I can then start working with these colours, I can add them to my swatches, and of course the other thing is I can now jump over into my preferences and I can sync my settings. We're going to be setting up some new brushes and things as we go on with the demo, but you can see in here I've got this new setting within the preferences. I can choose all of the different elements that I want to sync. And what this will mean is that this again syncs via the Creative Cloud, and then when I come to open on my secondary machine, which may be my desktop machine in a different environment, when I come to open up Illustrator, it will automatically prompt me and ask me if I want to have my preferences imported in from the cloud so that I'm set up and working in this environment. So I have all of my brushes, all of my palettes ready to go for me in the same environment that I was previously working. So very exciting, nice workflow change there. So we've looked a little bit at Typekit already, and I mentioned that I've synced up a font from Typekit to my desktop. I'm just going to select these two elements here, and I'm just going to browse to that font. That was called Tecton Pro. So just to prove that it is in action and is working, let's come down to there. Where is it? And there we go. So we've got this nice artistic font now sitting within here. And again, if I have my web content, I can have this font running within my web applications, within my digital publications. I can keep it active, I can keep it searchable. It doesn't need to be flattened into a bitmap image or anything like that. So it's really doing the best thing for me. And therefore also we can set it to reflow correctly across different devices and screen sizes too. But we want to keep this brand consistent across our print publications as well. So, while we're on fonts, we're just going to take a look at a new type tool. If I expand this out, you can see we've got this new touch type tool here. I can also access it from the character panel here by selecting touch type. And the great thing with this tool is I can select individual letters but keep them within the word still without having to separate them out. And I can do things depending on where I float. over this little icons around here, I've got a little rotate at the top here. I can manage these fonts. You can see I'm just going to rotate this around a little bit. I can then pick it up and I can move it. I can move the other letters so I can adjust the spacing, etc. as I go. And yet when I come back into normal typing, I can still select the entire word, edit it as I would a normal word without having to have any separate elements within there. So it's really nice. Do have a play with that. It's very intuitive, very easy to use. It's going to shift that in a little bit closer up. As I move letters earlier in the word, it will shift, obviously nudge up the other letters here. So you may need to just reshuffle things very, very slightly as you make your changes. But it's very quick, very nice and easy to work with. Okay, so another new feature we're going to take a look at is this lovely pattern brush tool. I'm going to create a border. You can see it here actually. I'm going to create a border for around this logo here, which is going to be some tyre tracks, and the inspiration from this has come from a skateboard feature that we are producing as part of this digital magazine. I've created just some very, very simple shapes here to form the tyre tracks. I've got, this is going to be the main track, which is a repeating pattern. This is going to be one end and this is going to be another end. So these are just three separate objects here. All I've done with the ends is to drag them into my swatches palette over here so that I've got those as options when I come to build my brush. And if I open up this brush here, I'm going to just select this one that I want repeating. I'm going to drag and drop it into my brushes panel, and straight away I get the option to choose what I want to create, a scatter brush, an art brush or a pattern brush. I'm going to choose the pattern brush and click OK, and it has automatically done some nice formatting already for me there. So now within here I've got the ability to, of course, name the brush, to choose the scaling of it, etc. So I might want to knock this down a little bit to make it a little bit smaller, but we can also change the size of the line as well, the width of the line, so we've got control as to how big the pattern appears across it. But the other nice thing is you can see here I've got a corner butting up, and it's given me some automatic options to choose from as to how that corner is formed. I think this one actually looks a little sharper, so I'm going to choose that one there. And then you've also got the inner corner as well as the outer corners. If I choose this one here, let's see, let's go for the auto sliced in the middle area there. And then I've got the option to have the start of the line and the finish of the line. And this is where I can choose to add my ends. Oops, let's choose the right one. There we go. And let's choose the end of the line there. So you can see now I've got a really, really nice consistent pattern running right around those corners and finishing off nicely in the way that I would like. So let's just see that applied. I'm going to select this line here and let's apply the pattern brush. There we go. And as I say, we can choose here, we can choose our brushes from this panel drop down as you would expect, and we can also change the width of the line, etc., which will affect the pattern there. So that's nice. So that's quite a geometric shape that we've got there, but we might want to create some more fluid designs as well. Just going to take a look at, this is some razor wire. It's pretty low resolution photo. But what I'd like to do is to be able to create something from this little section here. What I've actually done is using the trace tool, which was improved and modified last time round. I'm sure that you'll remember from CS6. I've done an image trace on here, just a basic black and white one, and I've been able to lift out these elements here, which I'm going to use as my repeated pattern. Let's just come over and take a look. Oh, I've used this trace as a background as well for the logo, because it's a vector shape now. I've been able to apply a gradient across it, etc., and give it some nice treatment in there. So this is the element that I'm making my second pattern brush from. This is the razor wire. Let's just zoom in on that. And it's just one element. Now what's important when I'm creating a long fluid line and repeating pattern like this is to make sure that the centres of my repeated swatch line up properly. Okay, I could have this vertically. I can choose which way the pattern is applied across the brush. So again, all I would need to do with this is to drag and drop it into here. Let's call it a pattern brush again, and we can see how the repeated pattern is going to work. And I could here, of course, add in my corners, sections, etc. Let's just check that this one's working correctly. Auto-centered, I think that will probably be the best there. Again, adjust my scale, etc. I can choose to stretch to fit, I can add space to fit, and I can choose to let it follow an approximate path to join up the best that it can. I can also choose to add some colour options in here, so I can choose to have some tints and shades and hue shifts applied to that brush if I want to, but we're going to keep this black for the time being. So if I just now select this more fluid line and I apply this brush across it, you can see we've got a really nice razor wire effect there that we can have some fun with. So for fluid borders and that kind of thing, the pattern brush is really going to give you lots of options, and the fact that the corners are all pre-formatted for you works really nicely as well. Of course, you could create your own corner patterns and add those to the swatches and select those instead of choosing the ones that Illustrator has kindly selected for you. So now the other thing that you can do is create nice artistic brushes. I've got just some PNG images here. These are on transparency. This is some photos of Blossom I took a little while ago, and I've lifted out some sections from there. And if I let's just drag and drop one of these into here, and let's choose the art brush. And then I've got various different options again in here. I can choose to scale the brush proportionally, stretch to fit the stroke length, or stretch between the guides. If I choose this one, you can actually select the bit that is stretched out, which is a nice, useful aspect to the tool. So let's take a look at those different options here. If we stretch to fit the stroke length, we're going to get something along these lines. Okay, nice and big. And if we now come in and edit this brush, and let's change that to, let's have the right brush selected, shall we? I think that's the one that we just made. There we go. There we go. So this one's been stretched, and this one, sorry, is the scaled brush that we just created there. So you're going to want for different types of effects, you're going to want to choose different tools there. You might want to have this as a stretchable twig rather than it getting fatter as the line gets longer. It stays the same width but is stretched out nicely. So let me just come over and we'll take a look at some of these in action. Here we go. So let's see, we got a twig in here. Let's create the twig brush. Drop that in, choose the art brush, and we will scale to fit the stroke length. Let's try that. There we go, you see, so it's keeping the same width there, but I'm able to draw the branches out. If I create another one, drop this into here, and scale proportionally, what that enables me to do is to create some thinner lines. I might want for my smaller blossom areas, okay. So you can see I've got some really, really nice, quick artistic brush designs I can create there. So let's just come down to this next image down here. You can see this is actually some designs that I've been producing for an Edge Animate animation. There's a skateboarder jumping into shot here. I'm going to show you this animation in a little while, and that's something that we'll be focusing on in the next session. I've got the razor wire in place here. I've also got some blossom coming in amongst the wire in this next shot here. Again, these are all created with the artistic and pattern brushes. And I have got the ability now to add also some tire tracks to these lines. So let's just select those. I've got a skateboard is going to be coming into shot here. You can see I've now separated out these lines so that it's just going to be the tracks themselves where the skateboard hits the wooden structure. And if I choose to add those lines there, that's great. And I can, oops, of course, want to make these a little bit narrower. So let's come into here and choose brush options. And let's just scale this down a little bit to about 10%. When I choose to scale that, it's going to say that I've already got the strokes in use on other areas. So if I want to apply that across all of those different brushes, then I can apply to strokes. Or if I click leave strokes, what it will do is it will create a, has it created it? No. Let's just create a duplicate brush here. Select those in. Apply those again. There we go. Let's scale that down. Let's click OK and let's choose Apply Strokes. It's probably a little narrow now. There we go. So you need to be careful if you want to use these brushes over and over. You might want to create different versions of them. But what you could actually do is make them fairly narrow to start with, and then change and increase the size of them using these points here. Okay. So of course I can save these brushes, and then I can resync my settings so that within my preferences I've got these brushes then available via the Creative Cloud. Okay, so that's as much as I'd like to show you within Illustrator at the moment. We're just going to jump over now into a publication that I've made the starts of in InDesign. So this is going to be an iPad little catalogue and some extra kind of information around the bigger print magazine that we've been working on. So here you've got the option to buy your skateboard. I've added just something very basic in terms of a folio overlay in here, which is a pan and zoom on this larger image. If we're just going to preview this on the desktop viewer, Adobe Content Viewer, you can see that if I select this image here, I can pan around it. We've got loads of different folio overlay options for interactive content within InDesign to publish out via DPS. So do take a look at some of those tutorials that are out there on that. I know that my colleague Rupert does a lot of different e-seminars looking at all of these different interactive objects. So I've got all of these different, I can create image sequences, audio and video, I can create panoramas, I can create web content in here, which might be iframes to put Google Map images in, for example. And we've just seen also the pan and zoom and of course scrollable frames as well. So you can add all of those elements in directly from within InDesign. And the other thing that I can now do is something that we have wanted to be able to create for a while now, and that is to generate a QR code. So if I click on Object, Generate QR Code, I've got various different options here. I've got a web hyperlink, some plain text, a text message, email, or business card even. So I'm going to choose this web link here, because what I want to happen is that when somebody views this element here, they are able to then see an animation on their phone. So I've just added that in. This is the animation that they would be able to see. Let me just jump over to it, and we will come into here. Reset this as. So these are the assets that we were creating earlier within Illustrator. You can see there's the tyre tracks that come in, and that skateboard is following a motion path, as is you can see I've had an awful lot of fun with this. So as is this one, there's going to be another drop down from here in a second, I think. Ah, there he goes. He's going to follow another motion path out there. Okay, off into the distance. There's a few more elements that we're going to add into that for the session later in the week, but that's just to give you an idea as to what's possible within Edge Animate. From within Edge Animate, if you're wanting to create animations for your digital publications or to go on your websites via Adobe Muse, for example, you can export the web content, the web folders and the structures and the code, no problem at all. But you can also export something called an OAM file, a digital publication file, which will basically allow you to place that file as you would with a video or image directly into InDesign or into Adobe Muse, and that's what I've done here. So let me just open up Muse very, very quickly. You can see I've got my master page in here. For those of you who aren't familiar with Muse, it is a tool aimed at designers to help you to create websites without writing any code. So it's widget based. You've got some interface tabs at the top here. So you've got your planning stage. This is where you add your various different pages and child pages to the area. You can also then jump into the design mode and add widgets from the widget library, add lots of different links, etc., interactive objects in there. I did quite a full Muse seminar a little while ago, so do take a look in the area where we have all of our pre-recorded streaming videos. So do take a look at that and have a look closer at Muse if that's something that's going to be useful to you. But for turning around campaigns and also for creating your own websites to show your own work, it's a really, really useful tool. The other nice thing that we've got is direct integration with Adobe Business Catalyst. So if I click on the Publish tab here, you can see it's remembering that I've already published this once. I've called it Skateboard, and here's the URL. And if I jump over into my Creative Cloud environment again online and over to my Files area, you'll be able to see in this tab down here all of the different websites that I have published via Adobe Muse through Business Catalyst. So you can see here I've got 5 live sites. That's the maximum I can have on my single edition of the Creative Cloud. So I've got various different ones up there, including a Happy Birthday Dad one. But this is a temporary site that I've got up at the moment for the skateboard. And this is what the QR code's going to link to. Obviously, I need to publish this to live at some point. So the other thing I could do with the QR code there, of course, is to instead view a phone version of the layout. And from within Muse, I'm able to easily create my phone and my tablet desktop layouts as well. So that's just a little peek at Muse. Do take a look in more detail. And we're going to be looking, as I say, more at the creation of animations for digital publications using these other design tools to create the assets later in the week. So look out for that. But for me, that's it, folks. I hope you've enjoyed the update. I hope you are going to get involved in the Creative Cloud very soon. I hope you can make use of all of these features that are coming your way very shortly. For any questions, any feedback, do join me on Twitter. My handle is @CreativeSneaks. I've just set that up quite recently, but I'm going to make sure that I'm actively keeping you guys up to date with any new presentations, any new seminars and events and that kind of thing. And also I'll respond to your questions and feedback. So thanks again for joining, and I hope to see you very soon.